Yeah, let me just introduce and just let my community know. Hey guys, so I just want to welcome you all to Zeta Capital interview slash AMA. Showtime reached out to me actually very recently, just a couple days ago. We actually set this interview up yesterday or the day before. So I just want to be fully transparent that they have not gone through our onboarding process. But they do have something that is more unique than I've seen in the space. I wanted to bring you the information to you, but just to let you know, we have not looked at their smart contracts and we have not done an ISA check, infrastructure security audit on anything to do with them. I just want to be fully transparent with the community, where this is right now. So now that I've said that, I'm very eager to talk with you guys and listen to your project. So, why don't we start with you, Showtime? Probably since you're probably the most well-known person here, as you have a big following on Twitter. Maybe what are you doing for this project? What's your role in the project? And then we'll get to the maybe the bot, or we'll get to Homelander, and then you guys can introduce.
He's a machine.
And a little bit about your experience in the crypto space, and just a little bit of who you guys are. That'd be great.
Yeah, thanks, man. And by the way, anytime you guys want to look at any of that information, we will make sure that you get it. No worries at all. I know it's kind of last second. There's a lot of stuff going on in the market. So appreciate the quick timing on this. I think you guys kind of know who I am. I was an entrepreneur first. I was an investor second, and an educator third. I find myself as a kind of a core member of a blockchain project, and that is really a response to the market more than anything else. The passive income space has not been very friendly to people. I think you have a lot of folks running projects. We were just talking about it before we got started here, where they're trying to find ways to make money, right? Because ultimately, at the end of the day, projects have got to make money. I think we all can agree to that. And there's all sorts of things from incubations to trying to create your own blockchain, trying to create your own game. There's all sorts of ways that people are trying to make money. The problem is that much of this becomes more of kind of just a promise than something that actually gets fulfilled, in my opinion. These projects end up taking your money as customers without any ability to really make money. The spending gets out of control. We all know, we've seen this 100 times. I know, Sensei, you sure have. Spending gets out of control. The emissions get out of control. You can't fight the emissions. At some point, you get this massive selling pressure that eventually occurs. Project ends up going to zero. The team panics. They start making bad decisions, all this kind of stuff. What frustrated me the most about the space is the people who got hurt, right? The people who've reached out, to me and said, hey, I put my life savings into this. They're voting with their confidence, with their wallet, and then having that lack of plan from the projects come to fruition is very disheartening. And I think we talked about, I think it's really disillusioned the space. So, you have the mishandling of people's money, like we talked about. You have projects who are making partnerships, air quote partnerships. You can't see me making air quote. They're making deals of investments, but the community is really in the dark about how all that's happening, right? There's AMAs that are held where they'll say one thing and then all of a sudden they'll end up going back on it, which is the absolute opposite of kind of transparency and integrity, honesty. So having sat back and watched a lot of this, what I think is missing in the space is really a group of entrepreneurs, people who know how to run successful businesses and have done so in the past, coming in and treating their customers with the respect that I think they deserve, which I have not seen up to this point yet. So I look at, for example, somebody puts money into a project, that should be looked at as your own family putting money into something. If your own family gave you money and said, hey, put it into crypto, you would probably think twice or three or four times about buying that crypto, more so than you would your own money, right? And to me, these projects got to a certain point because of the people who gave them their money, and I think they end up forgetting that. So Zeta is really a reaction to the market. It's a reaction to the fact that people are being treated, I think, disrespectfully. Their money is not being handled properly. There's a lot of promises that don't end up happening. Okay, there's a lot of the going on the defensive and playing blame games, all sorts of just reasons as to why they can't make it happen. So Zeta is really a reaction to that, to try to do it the right way. So we're the only project that I'm aware of, correct me if I'm wrong, that's not only going to be making profit for its customers day one, but actually it's going to be profitable even before the pre-sale went live. So in the pre-sale, we are already post-revenue. Before we ever took money from customers or from the community, right? So I use the analogy, for example, you look at Amazon, okay? One thing Amazon popularized was the review system, which is essentially the ability to, back up what you say you're going to do. People can look at reviews, they can say whether or not you're full of it, okay? And that's a great system. We look at charts the same way. We want to see where has the price gone? Is this kind of safe to get into? Things like that. So in the world of what we're involved in here, we have a lot of projects that they come out and they take your money, but they don't really have any ability to make money. So I wanted to come out and show that not only can we say what we do, but we already have done it. And that's the entire goal. So, invest using traditional finance, create that positive cash flow and profits before the emissions get out of control so that you outpace the emissions with your profits. And then ultimately, obviously, you give that value back to the customer, right? So it's pretty simple to me. I mean, you deliver on what you set out to do and you do it in a way that kind of changes the space. And everybody's talking about they want to bridge DeFi and traditional finance. We're actually doing it, right? So we've partnered with a company called Gaxis Holdings, who Dan here is going to speak on behalf of. They have over $6 billion in asset management, right? They've grossed over $100 billion in over 15 years serving high net worth clients in traditional finance. So these are the professionals in making money that, in my opinion, the space is sorely missing, right? So again, just to kind of summarize my thoughts here, it's a response, Zeta that is, to the space that, in my opinion, is kind of taking people for a ride. People are looking at this space and they want integrity, they want transparency, they want communication. They want the ability that if you come out and say something, you do it. If you come out and say you have a partnership, you can show the legal documentation. If you have an investment, show us the financial quarterly audited reports, show us the legal documents that they can actually see how their money is being used, where it's going, and how they're getting a return. So again, before I pass it over to Gavin to kind of share his thoughts, I've always believed that the community that invests in these projects are actually far smarter than the people running the projects, right? This was based on people's feedback on what they wanted, and to give the community something that I feel like they can finally be proud of based on their feedback. So that's what Zeta is. Gavin, would you like to take over and give your thoughts?
I'm almost afraid to, sir. I agree with everything you said, and ultimately what we're doing is we are a new arm of the Gaxis family, and what we do is we allow access and influence to people like yourself who traditionally would not have access to these markets. So there's an old adage that it takes money to make money. Well, what if I told you that people that have money typically get invited to invest in things that people like you or I might not be invited to? So the concept here between Zeta Capital is that you'll be earning passive income via our tokenomics and our structured design elements, but you're also going to get access and influence to markets that you traditionally would not have access to. And so you're going to be able to get those same large yield returns as historical, traditional, well-established and well-resourced individuals, even if you don't have the same amount of capital to bring to bear. So long story short, your $10 can get 10x the same way that another individual's 10 million can get 10x. And again, that's brought to us by our partnership with our SRO partners, Gaxis Holdings AG. Dan, anything like that, sir?
Yeah, hi everyone. So my name's Daniel Kingsley. I'm Chief Fund Manager for Gaxis, okay, and I'm a core member of Zeta as well. So this is a really exciting new project for us, okay. We're a majority or a large shareholder, okay, of Zeta. So, we're intimately partnered with them. I've been in the crypto space for 5 or 6 years, and in wealth and asset management for over 10 years. So the main point I wanted to make was when you look at these models, these passive income models that are traditionally set up at the minute in the crypto space, they all fall and founder on the sustainability part. Okay, and that's down to the mismanagement of capital, because this, I know obviously there's, a big community aspect when it comes to the crypto space, but ultimately this is a financial model, that people are setting up, and companies are trying to, raise hundreds of millions in capital, and then they literally have no idea, how to effectively utilize that capital to, sustain these returns, which, let's be frank, the ROI that's quoted by a lot of these projects is, insanely high. And what people don't understand is that with that sort of percentage return, the level of risk associated that you would need to risk that capital to actually achieve a strong return on it, it's just insane. So when it came to us reviewing this sort of model and the proposal, what we thought about intently was obviously how would you divide that capital up, into a portfolio that was risk adverse, or as risk adverse as possible, but could still sustain the returns that are needed for the model to work.
So many questions here, guys. So on a 30,000 foot level, you guys are going to be taking investor funds and using that to invest in traditional finance. I also was in listening to you guys previously. You guys are going to be using trading bots as well. Can you kind of just walk us through how, what the model is, right? You guys are raising money right now for the pre-sale.
Yeah, so,
and what are we doing with it?
Yeah, so the capital that's raised for the pre-sale is going into Zeta Capital. Let's say that Zeta Capital is the fund. Yeah, we call it a feeder fund because obviously Gaxes is the primary fund. Yeah, so the capital that's raised through the feeder fund would then be effectively invested by Gaxes as the money manager. Okay,
got it.
To simplify it. Now, the capital that's managed by Gaxes obviously is really separate in my view, to Zeta, because obviously Zeta is offering a passive income model, isn't it? Traditionally, that obviously every investor is theoretically buying tokens, and then they're purchasing this financial vehicle from Zeta that will provide them a fixed return daily in the form of the token. Now, obviously, the capital that's managed by Gaxes will ultimately be divided, and allocated into certain market sectors, ultimately to achieve, all of the investments, in fact, that will be utilised will be short term, obviously, because obviously you have to imagine normally with a portfolio, if you're a private investor, then you would look to traditionally have, say, 10% of that portfolio in something high risk or ultra high risk, and then you would have, predominantly an IFA would advise you to have 70% of your portfolio in low risk, ETFs or bonds, whatever that may be. Obviously, if we're going to sustain a return of 265%, PA, then you're going to have to look at, really effectively utilizing that capital on investments that traditionally, are not available to private investors. Because obviously, you understand with hedge funds, and larger kind of investment banks, there's a minimum requirement, isn't there, to open an account with them?
Yeah.
Say,
you might need 7 figures or whatever, or 8 figures to do something like that, a big account. I understand that.
Correct. You have to be qualified as a qualified investor.
Credit investor. So most of it, yeah.
Yeah, so some of those opportunities that are presented to high net worths, they don't trickle down to the private investor. And they usually are offered, if they are offered to a private investor, at a completely different rate. Yeah.
Gotcha. So walk me through this, guys. How people are going to be investing in, because I know you guys have some type of quote unquote node model, right? There's different. How are people going to make money back, right? Are they going to make money back by holding the tokens? Are they making money back by operating these, was it ZON nodes, ZON or XON nodes? Can you walk us through how that is supposed to work?
Gavin, would you like to take that? I think you can explain that very succinctly.
Certainly. So on launch, we will have our own DEX. You will purchase 10 Zeta coins from the DEX. You can then choose to trade them if you want. If you want to be a trader, you can wait for the price to appreciate and trade them on a speculative market. Or what we prefer is that you create a zone. So the word is XON, and it's pronounced zone. You create a zone, that's a representative of your membership. The more zones you have, that elevates your membership. So if you think of it as the more zones you have, the higher levels you get, which will give you higher level access to the financial services within our catalogs. But the passive model is, like you mentioned, similar to the nodes as a service, DeFi as a service. We were all inspired by previous projects. So the idea is that you're going to get paid out daily passive income of 0.1 Zeta coins. So you stake 10, and those coins are put instantaneously right back into the rewards pool, and you're paid out 0.1 per day.
And I know you guys have a decay model, right? So, and that is, I think it's what, 12 months?
No, sir. So there's no, it's not a decay model. And I'm sorry. So what happens, your zone is good for 365 days, and then it goes away. The only way, we try to not say decay model because we don't want people to think that their rewards are going to be decreased throughout the lifespan.
Got it.
And so instead, it's more of a self-pruning mechanism so that you're guaranteed to get your 36.5 coins, you get your 265% APY. Yes.
So if I could speak on it for just a moment, Sensei. So, a lot of people look at this model and they say, well, wait a minute. It didn't work with Strong It didn't work with this project, or it didn't work with that project. And all, you can point to any project and say it didn't work. In my opinion, the nodes as a service, whatever acronym you want to use here, is a tool, but it's not the business. And I think that's the main difference. You look at I'll just name drop, I apologize in advance, but you look at Strongblock, for example. Strongblock they were making money. They were making money on the claims, but they weren't investing and making a return on the money, right? Now, supposedly there's a chain. I don't even want to get into whether it's there or not, but the bottom line is these projects don't know how to make money. And in my opinion, it's not that the model doesn't work, it's that it works in its right environment. It's kind of like if you try to plant some, flower in the middle of the desert. It's not that the flower or the seed is wrong, it's the environment's wrong. So you put that in its proper environment where you actually have a partner that knows how to make money, because that's what we're here to do last time I checked, right? To make money and get you a return to defend the price, to do the things that should pass the value back to the investor or the customer in this instance.
Correct. And if I could add to that, Showtime, it's another thing that you said where the emissions aren't being outpaced by the return of the investments. And so, like Dan said, when you get access to these markets and these opportunities, this is how you get, we say 265 APY. That's a great number to me, especially coming from old school investing. That's a 2 or a 3x. When you look at the partners that we have and you look at the history of what their projects typically do, that's where you start seeing that 10, 20, 45. We've seen some very impressive numbers. That's the service that we're providing. We're providing access to those big 10x, 40x projects via our partnership with Gaxis, Alphabet, and Launchpool.
Okay, so guys, sorry, Dan, go for it.
Sorry.
No,
I was just gonna interject, and add on that basically. So obviously, if you look at any of these traditional projects online, they I'm not going to name drop, but if you look at them and the similar node kind of models, they are they're not transparent, any of them. So they chuck the figure on the webpage of exactly how much they're going to offer you per year, and these high returns, but they show zero documentation, zero information on how they're actually going to use the capital to sustain that return. With Zeta, you will see in the next couple of weeks that there is full transparency in relation to how the capital is going to be utilized, all the documents, regular auditing. The dashboard is going to be insane. It's going to look there's going to be a lot of sizzle on the project. And I'm sorry, I just wanted to add on there to do with the transparency factor, because a lot of people, that's one of the questions that seems to get asked a lot is in relation to the transparency, because it's all well and good, obviously, everybody saying, well, we can do this, but no one really knows how the capital is being utilized, behind the curtain.
No, I got you. So walk us through, guys, because you did say that it's going to cost 10 tokens or whatever to make a zone. But then all 10 tokens go back into the rewards pool. So where are you guys making money here? On taxes? Explain how you're going to raise the treasury and then use that to invest.
Through activities within the project. every claim, and then as we create more decision points throughout our ecosystem by creating real utility for the coin, those decision points will feed into our liquidity pools, our treasury, and our operations. And those are all outlined in the white paper, sir. But for the audience here, if you hadn't had a chance to see it yet, what we do is every time that you claim, there's a finite fee. That fee is determined by the coin price. There's a relational chart. As the coin price goes up, the percentage of the fee goes down. And what we do is we take that, we invest half of that amount. We take the other half, a quarter of that gets turned into our liquidity pair, and the other quarter goes into our operations fund. The way this works is operations funds, logistical events, and make sure we can pay our bills as we scale as a corporation. We can always take the funds from M&L and operations and feed it back into the treasury. If we find that we're a little ops heavy, we can always go in one direction. The important part is that we can never go in the opposite direction. Once the funds have been managed and earmarked for treasury, they have to be used. And again, because we use a smart contract, it's insured. So, for example, we're a U.S. company. Gaxis is a Swiss company. The way the smart contract is written, those funds never touch U.S. soil. They're transferred directly to Gaxis and earmarked as Zeta Capital funds.
Okay.
Did that answer your question, sir?
Yeah, it did too. But so is there gonna be, so the claim fee is based on the token price, which I totally understand. There's also a monthly fee, right? Or is that part of the claim fee you're talking about?
That is a maintenance fee, and it's treated the exact same, sir. Yes.
Okay, so there's claim fee, maintenance fee. What's the maintenance fee?
I apologize if I said maintenance. I mean membership fee, and membership fee is 15 USDC.
Okay, so that's where you guys are planning to make most of the money back here with the claim fee and the membership fee. Is there any other type of taxes on the token when you buy and sell it?
The DEX will have a nominal basis points fee, similar to a traditional merchant processing fee.
Gotcha. And then this DEX, is it built already?
It is not built yet. It's actually being designed right now. We have a partnership with Pangolin. When we told Pangolin what it is we're doing, they were excited to partner and actually get the DEX built for us, put a whole engineer on it. We're still talking with them right now, but it's going to happen, and it just hasn't been built yet, but it's being worked on at the moment. And I should also add to that part of the nominal transaction fee on the DEX will go to charity. And that's something that we want to make as part of our ethos, right? Because it's one thing to say you're going to change the world. If you give to people who need it and who are in a bad spot, that's how you actually change the world.
No, I know you have a big heart in giving back Showtime, and I appreciate that, man. I do think that's a big thing, and that's part of the reasons why I've enjoyed talking with you and our friendship over the past few years here in crypto. So
likewise, thank you.
So how far are we away on this DEX, and what chain is this DEX going to be on, guys?
How far we are?
It will be live at launch, so at least by July 20th, correct? Showtime.
We will launch publicly no later than the 20th of July. Hopefully before then, though.
And what chains? What chains tokens? Binance, AVAX.
It'll be on Avalanche.
AVAX, okay. Man, there's a lot. So you know what's funny? Actually, 2 months I said this. I said the next. People ask me, hey, what is the next thing going to be happening in crypto? And I said it's going to be DEXs. And so, how do you guys plan to compete with Vapor's making a DEX? There's several other ones that I know off the top of my head that are about to launch. How are you guys going to stay relevant and get projects onto the DEX? Is that? Yeah.
Can I take this one, sir?
Yes, sir.
So the brilliant part is we aren't, sir. That's part of why we mentioned the strategic partnership with Pangolin. Pangolin designed our DEX for us. We are using a new white labeling service that I'll let them explain more about. In the coming weeks, we'll be doing joint AMAs, but it'll be Pangolin. And Pangolin, I believe, is a market leader in this space. When you hear Steven, their liquidity pair manager, just talk, the man understands the space. He understands where the future is going. They have some very exciting things coming down the pipe. And so to answer your question is we're allowing the experts to do what they do best. And so Pangolin will keep on top of those markets. We'll be white labeling their service. That's why earlier I was going to say the back end's done. We haven't put our fancy front UI on it yet. So that's why Showtime couldn't say we were done yet.
Actually, I think that's a much smarter way of doing this, guys. So that's good, because I was worried about that, right? Because if you guys are running the decks by yourself, how are you guys going to compete in this market? But if you're white labeling it, that's the way to do it, I think, in my opinion.
Yeah,
So,
Dex is sort of one of those key phrases, like a catchword, like node was a catchword, and RPC endpoint, you remember, was a catchword. So Dex is sort of a catchword. But kind of the main purpose behind it is, if you look at anytime you participate in the project, why give that money to Trader Joe when you could give it back to the protocol, which could then give it to charity, or you do something useful with it? I mean, it's dollars being kind of thrown towards I hate to say it, kind of centralized / not, decentralized exchange, right? When you could actually be controlling the environment, and you protect your customers because you don't allow rogue contracts, and you don't have all the issues behind a launch where people can just scam people into buying fake tokens. I know you've seen that more times than I can even say.
Yep. No, I've seen too much for one lifetime, and I feel like it's only going to continue. I do have a question, Daniel. So, this partnership, you guys are going to be taking basically money out of DeFi, out of the protocol, investing it into TradeFi. What are these type of investments that you guys are going to be looking at? Obviously, like you said, they're going to have to be short-term investments. What do those investments look like? And what is kind of the rate of returns people can expect, right? And just maybe paint a little bit of a picture on that. That would be good to understand.
Yeah, so there's the main sectors are private equity, obviously traditionally fixed income bonds. There's obviously the trading services, in relation to securities and derivatives, are anything from kind of CFD to futures trading. We do actually offer cryptocurrency services, but we have a number of projects for a couple of partners, which we're not going to mention now, but you'll see on the website, and there'll be more information on those crypto projects. A couple of the projects we've already invested in through Zeta, as in Zeta has invested already into these projects. And obviously Gaxes has a large, global real estate portfolio. So the division and how the capital is going to be allocated, obviously, we can't decide that until you know how much capital you have, in total.
Sure.
Obviously. So I can only give you kind of a broad idea, of the allocation. But I imagine almost 50% of the portfolio will be in trading services, Okay. So in under either aggressive trading bots that we have, some of which of the actual algos haven't even been used under the Gaxes banner before, but we have about 3 or 4 different options, and it depends obviously on your appetite for risk, sure, depending on what we're going to need to utilize. But I mean, obviously I look at the markets as it being a positive thing that everything's down at the minute, obviously, because it gives you an even better run on the way back up, at obviously achieving, especially if you're trying to achieve these sort of returns. Obviously with these models, I actually think it's the perfect time really to launch one of these models, because obviously if you're looking to achieve the returns that that people claim, then you're going to need really a bull market, or at least on the way back up, aren't you, to achieve that? Otherwise you'd just be shorting the entire time, and you'd only be allocating that capital to trading, and not to any other obviously market sectors. But so the division of the portfolio, will be more transparent through our dashboard, basically, when obviously we know how much capital is under management.
Gotcha. What is the tokenomics on the project? I mean, I was digging through the white paper. I didn't get to read all 16 pages. I had some other stuff I was trying to get to, and I was reading. Walk us through what the tokenomics on the project is. What are we looking at as far as how many pre-sale we're trying to do, and then is it just a flat token supply, or is it walk us through what that looks like. That's okay. No worries, man. How's your family? Okay.
Meaning zones being bought. Now, again, that doesn't mean that if we don't hit that, we won't launch. We will still launch, but that's sort of the overall goal we're looking at, and that monies that is raised, those funds, will be allocated the same way the tokenomics are. So you've got like as a claim fee or a monthly membership fee. If you've got half of it going back to the treasury, 25% going to liquidity and 25% going to ops, that's exactly how the pre-sale funds will be utilized, so that on day one, instead of having maybe 2 or 3 investments, you have 6 or 7 as an example. You just make even that much more cash, right? So as far as the reward rate, like we said, 0.1, and the token in the pre-sale, we're aiming for a $75 buy-in, okay, per token, or $750 per zone. At a public launch, it'll be a $100 token. And the reason we chose those numbers, just specifically, just to speak for a minute, is because we try to make the launch as fair as possible. In other words, launching at $5, having a pre-sale at $5 and launching at like 100 is, kind of a rough launch, And then you have people that get tokens, so they could dump the tokens on day one. You have a launch with a massive red candle. In this instance, you're getting a pre-sale token for the early people, and you have to build the zone. You don't get the tokens on launch day. You actually just have to build the zone, so there's no chance of anybody dumping anything, right? And I think when you look at sort of a pre-sale launch to raise funds versus a public launch, you have a $75 versus a $100 price point. That's not so far apart that people are going to feel like they were mishandled or cheated, so to speak. So, when you look at the actual lifespan of the project, okay, roughly about 700,000 zones before you kind of run out of tokens. And let's talk about that. What does that actually look like? What does that mean? Because the sensei as well as I do, finite amount of tokens, when you're building something that requires velocity, you can only do that so long until you run out of tokens. There's only so many tokens that go around. So what do you do? And this is sort of that problem that I don't think people have really figured out a solution to. Aside from making money, you have the tokenomic challenge of this part. To me, it's kind of just simple, which is what you do is you pause token A, you mint token B, and you migrate people from A to B. It's kind of like, for example, when you had, I'm going to name drop again, a strong node, and one day you were earning strong, and the next day you were earning stronger. Kind of the same concept, so that you do a couple things. A, you go from token A to B once you've ran out. You extend the project several more years, but the most important thing in that process is that you migrate the liquidity one for one. So one day someone isn't getting a $500 token, and then the next day they're getting a $100 token. That's not fair. It's not the right way to do it. So that will require a injection of liquidity to make sure that the entire process is as seamless as possible, and it extends the life cycle of the project, and everybody is gracefully handled.
Who's behind the smart contracts on this? Is this all custom, newly written code, or is this some code taken from A or B? Who's behind who's the head developer?
So the head developer is a gentleman named Brad from Gaxis. He did our DApp. Our smart contracts is all pre-audited code, and a lot of it was put together by a gentleman from the Bitcoin Center in New York. Okay,
so someone that actually knows what the hell they're doing is basically what you're saying.
Yes, and I wanted to name drop him, but as a courtesy, I want to I want to send him a text and ask him if he doesn't mind. But
no, I get that. I mean, we get claims of people who are gods at writing code, but when things actually hit the pavement, things fall apart. So
yes,
so if he works for Gaxis, obviously he's been thoroughly checked and he knows what he's doing. He actually has a job there. So that does make me feel a little bit better about that.
I'm sorry, I would just add one more thing for people that are a little more versed. You'll notice when you interface with our DApp that we're also using Morales on the back end.
Got it. Well, do you want to explain that to people who have no idea what that is, though, please?
No, sir. I'm teasing. It's sort of like a CRM for web design. It's a control module that allows you to centralize. So it's a way for us to centralize the deployment of our DApp, and it makes interfacing with the smart contract much simpler. So that's the way I look at it. And again, I'm not a programmer, but just from being in the IT field, I view it like a Joomla or a SharePoint, sort of like a CRM.
Gotcha. So guys, walk me through this. How are we? So we're in a tough market, right? And everybody we know we're in a crypto winter. We launched a project. How are we going to be taking? Let's say you guys have, I know you have at least 4 or 5 investments right now. one of these investments you guys make $10 million off of the investment. Are you guys going to be taking some of that profit and buying up, into the market cap? I mean, how is the market cap solely going to rely on people, setting up zones, or, are there other ways to be able to, because we're trying to get around the Ponzi-nomics model, right?
Sure.
We're trying to find more ways. And I know with this claim feature and the monthly fee, that's a great way to bring source into the revenue. But walk me through how we're going to grow the project.
Yeah, I'm going to tackle the Ponzi-nomic question, and I'm going to pass whether we invest in cryptos or how and when back to Dan, since Gaxis handles the investments. But, if you look at this model, a lot of people would say, well, why are you putting all 10 tokens back into the reward pool? Because traditionally, you hold some back for treasury or you hold some back for operations. The problem with that model, and I've seen it over and over again, you have to sell your own token. There's no other way around it. So you, as the project founder, actually end up dumping your own token in order to go and pay payroll or to go and buy, marketing and that type of thing. And then you're always relying on new people and more new people and more new people, and becomes this big S-shaped sort of curve where the more people you get, the more investors you have to get. So as we get profits into this project, which we already have profits, we will defend the price of the token as best as possible through buybacks. Now, the difference between that and what a lot of other people are doing, for example, without name dropping, there's projects who day one, they start off and they go and they buy strong nodes, right? Or they go and they build a phantom validator when Phantom's at $3, and now they're down 90% when the market's down, and their buybacks don't do anything because they just don't have enough cash to do it. It has no effect, right? The difference is what we're doing is the vast majority, not all of it, but a big chunk of the investments will be off-chain, right? So you sort of weather that crypto storm a little bit better when the market goes down, as opposed to a project that's got everything in validators and strong nodes and all that other type of stuff. That's more of a relying on the market. And in a situation like this, you will have the cash to come in and perform those buybacks to help stabilize the price. And guess what? All the tokens that you buy in that buyback go right back to the rewards pool. So essentially what ends up happening is that you rely less and less on new investors and more on the profit to actually create that same system over time. So as far as whether we'll buy cryptos on the downtrend or how much will be allocated to that, I'd like to pass that over to Dan.
Yeah, so as I mentioned before, obviously the allocation, it really does depend on how much capital, is under management. So the best way, obviously, to kind of preview that would be in the next couple of weeks when you see the website, obviously, with the dashboard and being able to see, what capital has been allocated to where. The reason why as well, you can't really go into specifics is because, everybody's looking at the Bitcoin price today, yeah? Even just the crypto markets. But obviously look at the traditional markets over the last week. Crypto isn't the only market that's bleeding at the minute, yeah? So obviously it does depend fully on what the analyst would say, okay? And obviously portfolio managers, it's a collective effort, and obviously there is a team, behind that, behind the decisions of what capital is allocated where.
Fair enough. These investments.
But what I would
Okay,
What I would like to say is that obviously on the I keep relaying back to the dashboard because obviously what you will see is there will be full transparency there. You'll be able to see and monitor basically, as if you were a private investor yourself. You'll be able to monitor exactly what is going where and how that market is performing and how that particular investment or that capital that's been allocated is performing. And obviously, when investments do come to fruition, obviously that those posts will be available through the dashboard to show profit that's been made, and even deals that are executed. There will be obviously full kind of audit track of that. Yeah.
Got it. So, okay, so, you guys haven't launched a project yet. I know there's at least 4 or 5 investments you guys have made so far. I know you probably can't tell us all of the details, but can you kind of tell us what sector those investments have been made in and kind of why maybe you chose to do some of those investments?
Yeah, so there has been 4 or 5. You're right. 2 of them are crypto based. Okay, but
Okay.
they're late stage crypto based, and they're actually investments into the equity side, yeah, of the company, rather
Okay.
than actually kind of
Got it.
the crypto token side of things.
Okay.
Then on top of that, there's another project as well, which will be displayed when we launch. That project is pre-IPO, yeah, so it's private equity again, but the company is late stage, yeah, and that's one of the main strategies we have, yeah, is investing in late stage equity. Reason being, obviously, if you invest into a company before it goes public, the liquidity factor becomes a problem. Yeah. So for the Zeta model, obviously, liquidity is going to be key. So you can obviously react to the market. Yeah. And obviously allocate capital in certain areas to obviously capitalize on that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Daniel, let me ask you this, Daniel. I mean, you work for this $6 billion under management firm. I'm sure you guys, or you've been talking to some colleagues about what you guys are building here. How much interest has been generated from people that are just in traditional finance that are not in crypto? Are you
Yeah.
actually having
So
people interested in wanting to get into this?
So it's a good question. The problem with the traditional markets and the crypto markets is the appetite of the investor is completely different. I'm sure
Yep.
you can appreciate that. Crypto doesn't have a great. I mean, it's getting worse by the second. Okay, if you look at the markets, but it doesn't have a great reputation from a security factor. Yeah,
Yep.
and obviously from the risk side. So if you speak to a traditional investor about crypto, they immediately deem it high risk, yeah.
Mhm.
And a lot of capital management firms tend to steer clear of crypto because of that reason. But if you speak to a lot of kind of high net worth clients, if they go into crypto, they do it themselves. They don't use the wealth management company to do that.
Okay.
They tend to just kind of open up their own account, as you can imagine, on Binance
Mhm.
or one of the major exchanges, and then they buy, the crypto direct. I'll tell you why that's the case, because they don't invest enough of it, of their capital, you see, to warrant going into, a financial management firm. So they tend to invest, what they would see as just, play money in a sense,
No,
into
I
crypto.
got you.
So, so the appetite, from a traditional investor, it's not something, first of all, either that we would market, yeah, to investors, because crypto is unregulated.
Yeah, no, I totally understand that, man. I just wanted to see if there was more of, of an
No, it's
appetite
a really
building.
good. It's a really good question, by the way. Yeah, it's a question that pops up, and I'll be honest. If you speak to a private investor, and obviously we have relationships, obviously with our clients. So if you were to speak, let's say off the record, for instance, to a client, then they may be keen, and they definitely would have an interest, yeah, into this sort of model. It's just that from a regulatory standpoint, I'm sure you can appreciate, it just there's too many hoops to jump through and too much red tape.
No, I completely agree, and we need rules of the road definitely, and we should have something, here in America, hopefully in the next 12 months. Depending on how fast Congress wants to move, but I definitely think we're gonna need better rules of the road before we do get trillions more dumping into the space.
I
Um,
think I think that that you're 100% right in that, and we will get there. I think the crypto
yeah.
market will get there, and that's one of the reasons why we're so excited about this project. Because obviously it's something that we are, as we say, invested in. And we are part of. And we'd like to think sort of we're pioneering the way. Between sort of the reputation that the crypto market has of these kind of cowboy projects, yeah, because obviously ultimately that's part of the reason why these projects fail, because the capital just isn't utilized correctly.
So Daniel, are you managing most of these traditional finance, assets? Do you have a team that's going to be helping you? Who's in total control of this stuff?
So Zeta Capital has a fund agreement, yeah, with
Yep.
Gaxes, which will be displayed as well on the website, okay, for people to download, part of the community, etc. But no, ultimately it will be a collective decision. There'll be a team. It will be handled the same way any other client would be handled. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, fair enough. I just wanted to just clarify that.
Definitely.
Well, and
Is
Dan, I'm sorry, Rob, to
yeah,
get to the point of
please.
your question, Dan, I think he's asking about, for example, how we have a global real estate arm. There's a wing of people. So in each discipline, there's a desk of folks that work on it. There's analysts, consultants, etc. I wasn't sure if maybe you could talk about the catalog a little bit more in that respect, if you
Yeah,
feel comfortable.
let's talk about the catalog.
Yeah, so obviously, I mean, exactly what you've just said. There's a team of individuals for each market sector, and then obviously there was a lengthy team when it comes to the compliance area of the company. Then obviously for the account side, there's another team. So ultimately, the allocation of the capital to build the portfolio will be decided by me and probably two or three other people. Once you've decided on the allocation and the division of the capital, that capital is then managed by that team or micromanaged by that team. And then obviously overall decisions that are made depending on the percentile of capital being allocated ultimately then has to be signed off by someone like myself. Yeah. So if there's an investment that's going to be made over, let's say, 1.5%, of the total AUM, then it would have to be signed off by a fund manager.
Got it. Well,
Thank you.
Yeah, please, Homelander, if you got more, please add.
Well, no, it's just it's not funny, but it's interesting because I saw somebody in your chat say that there are no entrepreneurs in this space. Well, I tend to think that if you're an entrepreneur and you still have two pennies to rub together and you're not wearing orange, you're one up. So the idea is that there's just certain things you have to do, and we see so many other projects that start up and they just don't follow the basic things you're supposed to do as a company. So I think it catches Dan off guard sometimes, even internally when we talk about what our customers and what our members and what our clients need to know. And some of the questions, he's like, well, of course we're following the law. We have an SRO, we get audited. Our phone calls get listened into by every state regulatory agency. And so it's just one of those things where when I hear the question, I know how burned we've all been. So I understand the question. But from somebody who does this day in and day out and is doing quarterly audits, and everything they do is micromanaged and hyper governanced. It's a difficult question. So when you ask if there's a team working on it, it's one of those things where it's like, well, of course there is. We have experts in each sleeve, and we allow them to dictate best practices in accordance with every three-letter agency you can name under the sun. So that's the only thing I would add. It's just sometimes there's a bit of a difference because, of course, we have to do these things. Nobody wants to go to jail. It's just so rare in this space to have somebody with the acumen to understand and the capital at hand to procure the licenses and the et cetera.
Well, yeah,
Sorry.
I think.
Oh, sorry. Go for it.
Sorry. No. Sorry, buddy. Go on. Carry on. Sorry.
No. I was gonna say, we don't usually get a lot of projects that actually are here to follow the law. Most crypto projects they're here to make a quick dollar and get out. I did before Daniel jumps in. I did want to talk since you brought this up now several times. Financial reports. Are you going to be doing quarterly financial reports for Zeta Capital and releasing those to the public for them to read?
Yes, sir. So we will be having quarterly financial audits by one of the big five, PricewaterhouseCoopers, as well as KPMG and some other ones. So that's going to be data that you guys can read. So for example, we were just going back to the transparency component of this. If you have partnerships, show the documents, right? If you have investments, show the legal documents. If you are spending money the right way, audit it by a third party and show it, right? So these are things that make sense to me. They make sense to anybody running a business, but it's missing in the space. And yes, so to answer your question, that's exactly what will happen. We'll have quarterly financial audits done by a third party. You'll be able to read all that. At that time, what we will do is then take the profits that are made from the investments based on that quarterly audit and make a decision. How do we use that money? It could be budgeted and allocated towards ops if it needs to be, the treasury, of course. Part of it could be budgeted back to buybacks, depending on the state of the market, the state of the business. And if we have the profits to do so, some of it could also be allocated towards airdrops to the zone holders as well.
Got it. Daniel, did you want to continue? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you before, sir.
No. There wasn't anything more to add really to that side of things.
All right. Man, I'm wondering, does anybody in the audience have any questions? Maybe that I've missed or haven't asked. Also, to Showtime, Dan and Homelander. Is there anything? Because I know you guys have probably done several AMAs. Has there any questions that I haven't asked, or you feel that you need to point out something maybe that we've missed that's very important that people know?
Homelander, you have any add to that?
It would be very niche, but it would only be, not because you didn't ask it, but because we haven't offered it, but we offered the last AMA, is that we do intend to incorporate sort of an NFT gamification element where you can adjust your reward rates and the longevity of your zones. And so what we figured we would do by that is we guarantee the rates that we put in our white paper, and that's with the 0.1 emissions. However, if you want to exacerbate that, then depending your risk level, you could then sort of choose your own adventure, and you could control the coin and the lifespan of your zone however you want. So,
and give those NFTs a real world utility down the road as well.
I got you. So, and before I get King's question, and there's some other questions too, guys. I'm looking at your Twitter. I think you guys just made it. Still waiting on some posts, and the Discord you guys just opened. You're launching this in 3 weeks. How do you plan to market this? How do you plan to grow this, especially in this market right now? You're going to need 15,000 people usually in a Discord where, maybe, 10-15% of those people actually really start participating, right? So how are you guys going to grow this thing and get the word out to all these other people besides AMAs? Do you guys have a marketing plan, a marketing team? Let me figure that really quickly.
Could I start? Oh, I'm sorry, Rob. I thought you were finished. I was going to say, could I start, gentlemen? Because I know Dan does have more of a robust marketing plan.
Sure.
But
to be frank, sir, with constant common communication and hitting our milestones, when we say we're going to do something and then we execute on it and then we do the recap of how we executed upon it, I think that just being serviced and getting what you were sold is going to help. Now, Dan, you have more. I know.
No, actually, I didn't want to kind of dive into the marketing strategy. We do have one, though, is the short answer to what. But
oh, goodness.
The strategy is, the strategy itself
it's tiered, holistic, and robust.
Got it.
It's still being built, but obviously, you kind of gauge everything, don't you, from how you start, yeah? So really, in a couple of weeks' time, that sort of strategy will start to be implemented, and that will be after seeing what the appetite's like in the market.
Beautiful.
And Showtime, would you mind just talking about what we're doing right now? Even our pre-sale is a tiered pre-sale, and there's a little bit of a marketing paradigm to that.
Yeah. So we opened up the pre-sale roughly Wednesday night. We were having some technical things, got that resolved. So you might want to say Thursday is a full day, but it was Wednesday night. So the idea is there were people that reached out to me and said, they were just disillusioned with the market. They were hurt. They felt like they have not been able to get a win under their belt. And to me, kind of the dichotomy with that is that a lot of those people are hurt to a degree they can't participate, right? And that's just kind of the unfortunate reality of the market right now. But those were the people, to me, that deserved kind of the first shot, the people that were not able to make it, the people that, they got rugged or they got lied to or whatever the case may be. So really the pre-sale right now that started on Wednesday, that will last for 1 week until this upcoming Wednesday, has been more of a private invite. People that message me that, I've spoken to that I knew had a really bad situation and they needed something, that type of situation. People that are able to, say to their family, hey, I think this is something new. I think this is something better. I think this is what I thought the rest of the space was going to be, right? So that's a pre-sale that will last about a week. So to this upcoming Wednesday. At that point, if we haven't raised what we're looking to raise, it would be more or less like opening it up to communities such as yourself if you wanted to go through a lot of the security audits and things like that, Sensei. if the communities wanted to open this up to their specific communities, that would be going on for a week starting this Wednesday. And if we still haven't raised what we're looking for, then we would be looking to actually open up the pre-sale publicly until those spots are filled.
Why don't you, before we get King's question, how much money are you trying to raise total?
Gavin, you want to take that?
Hit me with it, Gavin.
All of it, sir.
I know it's a high
teasing.
number. If you don't want to say it, it's fine.
Well, no, it's fine. To be frank, we didn't put anything on the website like the chat had asked because we don't want to do that FOMO thing. We're not here to implant some sort of a need inside the consumer's mind. We are looking to raise over 10 million in the initial seed round.
Gotcha.
Inshallah.
And that doesn't mean, by the way, that if we don't raise that, we're not launching. That's not what that means. This just means in a perfect world,
I got you.
We get the full amount of funding, it would be 10 million at the highest amount.
All right, guys, fair enough. Well, let's get King's question because I know he's been waiting patiently. King, go ahead and ask your question, my friend.
Hey, what's going on, guys?
Good, how are you doing?
Sure.
Good.
What's up?
I'm just gonna go ahead and ask the tough question, man. How is this different than your involvement in Fire?
Can I take this one, Showtime?
Yeah, please do.
The difference here is we can dictate the outcomes.
Are you involved? You were involved with Fire too?
Correct. At our other places of employment, we were employees. We executed on the duties that were assigned to us. However, here, being primary core members of Zeta, we can dictate outcomes and own outcomes. So the difference here is this is our project. This is our project. Our names are on the masthead, so the buck stops with us. I think if you look at the work product, what we're presenting and how we're presenting it, you'll see a marked difference in other projects.
And if I can answer that, I'd like to answer that kind of separately just for myself. I try as a researcher and educator. Like I say, I was an entrepreneur first before I ever came into cryptocurrency, then an investor, then an educator, right? And a researcher as well. And I try to do the best that I can to sort of back the winners that I think are going to make it. And a lot of that is 80-20 investing into the people first, right? There's certain teams in this space that I don't think any of us could have saw what they were going to do in the project, given the fact that the project was innovative and creative and very new. Instead of trying to back a project, I thought, look, I can continue backing projects. I can continue giving suggestions about how I think things could go better, or I could just do it myself, right? And I think looking at the outcomes, it's like, look, a lot of people can say in the space how something can be done. What if someone actually does it? So that's the approach I ended up taking, is that I can kind of put my name on it, and our team, of course, can put the name on because it's a team effort, but putting my name on it and trying to actually steer this ship myself, I think will kind of get the outcome that I'm looking for, which is, something for you guys.
Okay. Cool. And then I have another question. So how much revenue are you guys currently generating? I don't know if you guys answered that question or...
Yeah, so the revenue that's being generated at the minute is approximately 2.5% per day, okay, on the AUM that's currently, should we say, under the Zeta capital fund. But also, obviously, the investments that we mentioned earlier, those investments obviously are equity investments. So theoretically, we're under market value. Okay, we've entered these projects under market value, and it already puts us, in the green, such on those projects. But they still need to come to fruition. Obviously, you understand with equity, private equity, those companies haven't listed yet.
So I'm confused because I'm understanding that you said that you guys were already making money, but you're saying that you guys made investments, but the investments haven't appreciated yet.
Oh, so we have a trading account as well. So there is liquid capital, but 3 or 4 of the investments that I mentioned earlier that Zeta have already gone into are equity, private equity.
Okay. So, but how much are you revenue are you guys currently generating right now?
Averaging 2.5% per day.
But I'm asking a dollar amount. I don't know if that's a weird question. Is that a weird question?
between 12 and 30,000 a month at the moment. That we've not had a losing day up to this point.
Okay, yeah, that's what I was asking.
Yeah,
Next
sorry,
question.
I wasn't sure whether or not you wanted to disclose, from I wasn't sure whether or
That's
not
just-
the team wants to disclose
yeah,
that
it's
from a
just
financial standpoint. So I was using a percentage
Yeah, appreciate it.
instead
Appreciate
of the
it.
dollar amount.
No worries.
So what is Nexus Mutual Insurance?
So that is a insurance company that protects on-chain against hacks, compromises into the smart contract code, taking over of wallets, things of that nature. Removal of liquidity, for example.
Does this mean that if like Zeta is ever involved in a rug pull themselves, that all of the capital is insured by Nexus Mutual?
If Zeta would not rug pull in that situation.
No, not
but
Zeta. I'm saying if you invested in a rug pull, all of that money would still be secured by the insurance.
I believe that's separate from the actual smart contract itself, right? So what Nexus...
Can I take this one, Showtime?
I'll finish real quick and then I'll let you go in
ahead,
here. But it covers more of the smart contract breaches and hacks and removal of liquidity on the Zeta project. As far as the actual investments, Gavin, you want to answer him on that one?
I apologize. I was trying to answer earlier, but I had muted myself. So the Nexus insurance is malfeasance insurance. That's in case anybody that's licensed breaks their professional license. That protects us as a company. That protects you as an investor. On the other hand, we also have $100 million in asset-backed liability insurance. That's what insures the project.
Okay,
and again,
so can you explain what that means? Like, because I'm, I'm not that smart. So
correct. So, for example, Dan, correct me if I'm wrong, but we have 100 million euros in asset-backed liability insurance. So that what would happen is that if the project were to become insolvent or were to fail for some reason, then all the zones that are created, we would take that number, divide it by 100 million, and that's what we're insured by. Correct?
Right.
got you. So then how does that work if Zeta was to invest in a rug pull? Does that mean, are you guys insured on that front as well, or?
Well, we to be frank, we would not invest in a rug pool.
Yeah.
Well, nobody plans on it.
Well, sir. So this is brilliant, though.
No.
So this is kind of why we evolved into creating our own project, is because we found that if we can't dictate the outcomes, we can't own the outcomes, and so we don't plan. It's sort of the reason why Gaxis has such a large ownership in our project.
Yeah,
we can't finagle them. Go ahead, Dan. Sorry.
We won't be. Yeah, so in relation to the capital being invested, that it won't be invested into smaller projects. Kind of obviously I'm not familiar with rug pulls myself. I know obviously that they go on, but I'm not that much in the crypto space, or as an active investor as probably you guys are in crypto. So touch wood, I've not been involved in anything like that. But what I wanted to say was obviously from a regulatory standpoint, you wouldn't get an investment bank invest into a rug pull. No, it just would never happen.
Right,
Okay,
but to be honest, sir,
so-
if we were to use that term, like if something we invested in were to fail, right, like a real life rug pull, we would have the same insurances as any other. We would write it off as a loss. Does that answer your question?
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm saying like my example was like Anchor Protocol. A lot of people thought that UST was safe. They thought they were just holding money. Maybe farming some APY, and a lot of big projects had a lot of money in that protocol. So I don't think anybody expected that to like I guess rug pull, so to speak. But it did end up happening to a large project. It was a top 10.
Correct. Dan, we talked about this earlier. So one of the benefits of Gaxis is that crypto is not a super large portion of their overall portfolio. And so crypto losses hurt, and Dan, I'll let you speak more to it. You can speak to it more eloquently. But the benefit of having Gaxis as our partner is that even when crypto winter is occurring, we can weather that storm because we have other access to velocities of money that are still being used in the direct economy. Dan, do you want to talk to that a little bit about how Gaxis' portfolio?
Yeah,
sure.
The easy way to kind of explain that would be that obviously anything in crypto is deemed ultra high risk by anybody from any financial institution deems cryptocurrency as ultra high risk. It's in the top percentile for investment. So if you have a portfolio with an investment bank, they're never going to put more than, let's say, 3 to 5% of your capital in cryptocurrency projects or cryptocurrency space in general.
Dan, don't you think once regulation happens though, that's going to change? Because you already have the sister company of what is it, the ICE, who owns the Nasdaq. They're already building a crypto Nasdaq.
Yeah. So I mean, yes is the answer. Yes, that will probably increase, but that will be because obviously they will suddenly deem cryptocurrency less of a risk, which will be convenient for them. As a big financial bank, suddenly it will be less risky once there's some sort of regulatory body involved. Correct, you're right.
Yeah. Gotcha. King, brother, did you have any other questions, my friend?
I do. So y'all said that like your DEX fees were going to be like your credit card processing fees. What exactly are those?
Those rates will be released at a later date. I apologize.
Okay, so we should just scratch that then.
Well, they won't be exorbitant, and I don't plan to commit usury, sir.
That's not what I'm saying.
It'll probably be probably around 1%. I think is what we were looking at, but please don't hold me to it. It might adjust. We might go.
I was just looking for a comparison. A lot of DEXs, I think like PancakeSwap is 0.5%.
Yeah, and then you have Trader Joe's, but then you have a DEX like Vapor's building a DEX. It's supposed to be 16% cheaper than Trader Joe's is. So you're gonna have a lot of competition out here. People going after those lower fees. I even think you're gonna see lower fees than 0.5 too coming very soon. So just be aware of that, guys.
If I could clarify that, the intention with the DEX isn't so much to go on the market and compete against other decentralized exchanges as much as it is to control the environment of swapping the token, taking profits, things like that. That way we can kind of control what the fees are behind that, and we can kind of make sure that when people are participating with the ecosystem, that goes back into the project, which will ultimately go back into some sort of charity, right? As opposed to giving it to Trader Joe or any of the DEX. Yeah, that's the intention behind it. I mean, if it becomes something where we can compete, that'd be just the cherry on the top. So.
Got you, brother. Got you. Go for it, King. If you have anything else, my friend.
All right. Yeah, I have two last questions. Now, my first question is, how much money do you guys need to purchase in buybacks in order to keep the price stable once you guys have generated, let's say, 25,000 nodes or 50,000 nodes?
That's going to be up to our tokenomic team to determine at the time. It's one of the things that's very difficult that almost nobody can predict is what the price is going to be, which will influence, of course, whatever the liquidity is going to be, which will, of course, influence the buybacks and the amount of impact those buybacks make, right? So, there's not really a lot of big projects launching in this specific market right now, so that's going to have an effect on the growth rate, and that whole figure just becomes a lot more complex. So it's unfortunately not something that I can answer, until we actually get the project up.
Okay, King, I just want to make sure that you're. Yeah. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry. I just want to make sure your question does get answered.
Okay, let me simplify my question. What are you going to do to make sure that we just don't avalanche ski downhill for the life of the project until you guys decide to close?
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, brother.
Okay, so the first part of that is just like what Showtime said. I want to make sure you didn't think we were dancing around the question, because it depends on the price. If the price is $100, our buyback would be different. What we try to do in our tokenomics is make sure that everything is a relative fraction. Everything is a percent base. That way, as we grow and go to scale, the same ratios are being met. And again, our goal is to be given access to large pots of money that have large yield returns that people traditionally would not be able to get access to. So the way that we're looking at right now is quarterly, after our audits by one of the big three firms, we will take what's left. We will see sort of where we're at as a project. If there's an area and a decision point where we see that the velocity of tokens is bleeding the value of the coin, we will either introduce a policy or control to stymie that, or if we have to, then we'll allocate funds to it. But that number will be dictated by the growth rate and the price of the coin at that time. But we do, I hope it answers your question to note that we do have the monies earmarked to do it.
Oh, dude, I don't know if I really like that answer. Okay, so what I heard there was that you guys are going to do whatever it takes to stabilize the token, whether it be reduce rewards or whatever it takes.
Not reducing rewards.
No, sorry. Where did you hear that, sir?
Well, you were saying that like introducing different policies in order to stabilize token price. So when you said like introducing different policies, I thought that meant like changing like reward costs, changing maintenance fees, changing, you know what I mean, monthly fees, all that different stuff.
Would it be different if I said adding more utilities and more decision points? So, for example, if we're just talking about the velocity behind the decision flow, this is like when we write the math proofs to run the math sims. You have to say, okay, it's almost like you're designing a choose your own adventure video game. Will the user be able to do X, Y, or Z? Every time you introduce a new point and there's a utility behind it, you lessen the option of your commodity being depreciated. And so when I say we're adding new controls, I'm not talking about things like taxes. I can see how you would think that. I apologize, and I'm glad you didn't like that answer. We're talking more things like more utility, adding more value, adding more option sets, so you decrease the odds of somebody wanting to withdraw their funds from the ecosystem because it makes more money. It makes more. There adds more value for them to be utilizing one of our other services than it would be to them to be taking it out and extrapolating that and turning it into another commodity. Does that answer your question a little bit better?
No, that absolutely answers my question. I mean, you know, at this point, it's not, you know what I mean? I just kind of disagree with your idea. Not saying that you're wrong or I'm right. I'm just saying I just don't think that it's going to be so smooth, you know what I mean, as to introduce a new utility or a new DEX, and then that's going to relieve some of the sell pressure, because I don't think that worked for Hive or really any project ever so far.
We're just gonna have to see how it plays out.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. That was a statement. That was not a question. You know what I mean?
No,
you don't
certainly,
have to respond to that at all.
No, it's fair. But to be clear, I'm not talking about just coming up with a new DEX or a new product set. We're talking about things like, you know, what if we had our own credit card or our own debit card where you could load the coin to it? That would drastically, potentially remove innate sell pressure.
Oh, absolutely, man. If you guys could accomplish that, I think that would definitely make some waves.
What I like.
Tune in more, sir.
Okay,
Same bet play, same bet channel.
Yeah, let's get King's last question because I know Fancy and Swish
Sure,
Raj
go
has
ahead,
been
please.
waiting a little bit.
Okay. So you were saying something about charity. You know, every time we see charity in this space, I feel like it ends up leading down a bad road. Like what is the, I mean, I understand he was saying that you want to help people, but like what is the real idea?
Perfect.
Like what types of charities are you guys already thinking about donating to? Like what type of, I just don't understand like why incorporate that as like a key focal point of the project.
Charity's just a footnote on you know, on the website. You know, in the what I mean by that is that, you know, that is a minor part of this project.
Well, Dan, can I take this one? Because there's a reason why we elected to do it. So what we're going to do to answer your question is we're going to have a short curated list of 501c3s that have been pre-vetted. We're going to take it to the community and say, okay, of the DEX fees, which one of these should we go to? Our goal is to create our own 501c3, again, just so we can make sure that the funds are being allocated the way we want to. We are considering partnering with the Alpha Foundation. However, again, we're keeping our curated list a little bit short. We're getting closer to it. But the idea is that as people are, they're an organization that I worked with years ago. They used to run they used to be the parent organization for the Give 5. It was an organization that targeted human suffering in 7 specific areas. I don't know if they're still around anymore, but anywho, the point is that the idea is that as people are interfacing with the DEX, instead of just nickel and diming people and taking monies from it, we just take that amount of we just take those monies and we give it to a certified, qualified 501c3 or whatever NGO. And the idea is that as you're participating in our environment, without you doing anything, you are feeding, clothing, or sheltering somebody that you'll never meet. And so the whole idea is that as we're, you know, providing all this value and everyone's getting what they want, you don't have to be asked, do you want to donate this? Just by participating in the system, you know that a certain amount of basis points are always going to go to that endeavor.
Is there a way to maybe turn that off and use that money towards the project if maybe, let's say, the project is taking a negative turn?
Yeah, I can assure you that if the project wasn't going well, that we would not be ciphering money.
Yeah, I would not.
Gotcha. Okay, that was really what I wanted to know.
You have no hearts, people.
Yeah.
No, I'm teasing. But again, and these are, and King, these are discussions we have internally. It's a mix between how much we want to do for people versus how much people just want to get their money. And so, there's a bit of a balance.
Yeah.
Well, I think
This is
during
a
this
financial
recession that
vehicle,
we've going
you know,
through right
guys.
now, a lot of people are, really trying to get their money. I know I put a lot of money into piggy bank, and that token is crashing, and I haven't compounded a single time because I'm just trying to literally withdraw as much funds as I can
Sure.
before, I feel like it's going to collapse.
Sure. If
Well, I'm here for you, sir, and people like you.
Yes. All right. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, King. I appreciate you asking
it.
all those questions. Always a pleasure.
Thanks for your time, mate.
Fancy, why don't you go ahead? And I know you've been waiting a while. I appreciate your patience. What you got, Fancy?
No problem. So I guess I'm trying to get a little understanding. First of all, Showtime, I've been following you on Facebook Twitter ever since I started, and you were kind enough to follow me and always responded to me. And anybody knows that follows you and has seen some of your YouTube videos that you're wanting to give back to people, and I can never imagine you doing something about the charity aspect. So that's really awesome.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Yeah, and so just so I understand this right, as an investor, I'm gonna buy 10 of these tokens, and I'm gonna get myself a zone. And sorry, I got some boys playing on the background. So
That's okay.
And then I'm going to get a 0.1% every day. And then did I hear something in regards to, depending on how many zones you have, it's goes towards a different part of an investment or money that you get back in return? Or there's like a catalog of investments. Once you get so many, you could choose one or something. How did I?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Or is it just
you heard that correct? You heard that correct. As you gather more zones, you may be elected to participate in select giveaways. You may have access to a menu of items. If I had my way, it'd be like a Mortal Kombat game. They're all grayed out. You could read how great they are, but until you get enough zones, you can't select them. But I'm not in charge of the UI, gentlemen.
Okay, so let's just say you investor, I only have enough. I get one zone. So the only thing I'm getting in return is whatever the current price of the token is, and from the 0.1 a day. Or is there something beyond that with all your investments that you're doing?
Sure, it would be the passive income from that 0.1 zone a day, as well as quarterly, a potential airdrop or dividend share from how we perform that quarter after auditing.
Okay, and we're not trying to make the price stable using some kind of system like everybody knows Horde uses this system in regards to trying to keep the price stable. We're trying to get the price to appreciate.
Correct.
Well, yeah, and if I could hop in for a minute, the buybacks that would occur from the investments would fight to keep it stable, right? Because obviously, look, one of the reasons people like Horde so much is because if you buy in, if you cash out, you're going to have a certain price. Okay. Now, without getting into their mechanisms, how long it'll work, if it works long term, the bottom line is yes, we'll be trying to defend a certain price point, which again, a lot of this is a moving target just because we've got to launch and got to see the tokenomic structure play out in the growth rate and all this kind of stuff. But to answer your question, yeah, it'll be to defend a certain price point, and at the end of the quarter, we will do a financial audit, which we will then budget towards things like operations, treasury, buybacks, and if we can, airdrops, as well as the catalog of financial services you'll have access to by holding a certain number of zones.
Okay, I think that answered my question. Thank you very much. You guys have a great day. Thanks for taking the time for this.
Thanks.
Take care, buddy.
Swiss Raja, what is your question, my friend? Thank you for being so patient.
Hey, Raja.
Hey, what's going on, guys? What's up, Jeff? Thanks for having me. Steven kind of asked my question, so I just wanted to know if there was any clarification, or if y'all have actually worked out, the different tiers, like if you were to have one zone versus 5 zones versus 10, what kind of services that would afford you, or have you broken down the tier aspect yet?
I could tell you I have something in mind, but I would hate to say it and then we decide something else, to be honest.
Sure, yeah. So I just didn't know if I already worked it out yet.
Yeah, kind of. To answer your question, kind of. And I know that's not like a great answer, but there's two kind of things at play here. The first thing at play is going to be the services themselves, right? What can Gaxis offer? I mean, we've talked about credit card services and other things that I don't want to mention in case they don't work out. And then we have to decide, okay, so you have this catalog of services that we can offer now. What about 3 months from now, 6 months from now, 12 months from now? How does those services evolve and change, and how many zones will be required in order to get those. So yeah, those are decisions that for sure should be made, I think, fairly soon here, and then we'll post that, of course, for everybody in our Discord to know way in advance.
Awesome. Thank you. Appreciate it. Just really excited for what you guys are doing. It's been a great AMA so far. So thanks for having me up.
Thank you, sir. And before you go, Raj, sir, one of the things I wanted to say is that another aspect of being part, because I know you're part of our early community, sir, and thank you, is we don't want to just be dictators. Showtime really, it's important to all of us. It's important to all of us, but that we hear you out. And so there might be an order where we think, for example, I have my bias. There's things I think are more important. If I say, oh, well, this is awesome, we should make it, you need more zones. I think that what we're going to do is we're going to come to the community with some of these things and say, how do you feel about this? And again, we'll be accessing certain people. Showtime likes to say that you vote with your dollars, and I fully believe that. We plan to be trusted custodians.
Yeah. I don't remember if I mentioned this because I've been on 2 AMAs with several hours, so I apologize if I already said this. Forgive me in advance. But I kind of really see these pre-sale folks that come in early as, you guys are an asset to Zeta. Okay, you guys are the ones that are coming in early and looking at us and having that confidence in us. Okay, so I want to have that confidence in you, and there's all these pre-sale folks that are going to have a voice. They're going to have monthly calls with us. We're going to tell them what we're doing with the project. What is your opinion? What do you think? And when you say something, we will seriously consider it. I also see people in the community that come in. They have a background in finance or entrepreneurship or business or blockchain, of course. And I feel like a lot of these people just kind of get lost in the Discord, or they get lost on Twitter. And it's like, man, these are people that want to see this project succeed just as much, if not more so than we do. Why not bring these people in and give them a voice and get them on calls and just hear them out? Because like I always say, the investors or the customers or whatever you want to call them, the community is smarter than the people running these projects. And I think curating them and getting them in and involved is key.
I share that ethos, and I appreciate y'all's answer. It was very informative. I love what you guys are doing. Thanks again for having me up.
Thanks, Raj.
Thank you.
Thanks for your time. No problem.
Well, guys, hour and 27 minutes later, I think we did a very good job about covering the project. Has anything been left out?
Nothing that I can think of. Of course, I'll talk to you, Sensei, about, opening this up to Cryptonairz, afterwards, and I'll let you kind of curate that to your community. But, you feel free to follow us on Twitter, xetacapital. Like Sensei said, there's no tweets yet just because we're getting other things built right now, but there is a link to our Discord in there. You can easily join as well.
Absolutely. I think I'm one of your 60 something followers at this point. So I'm already ahead of you, my bro. I'm already ahead of you on that.
Thanks, brother. So. Appreciate you.
But I just wanted to thank you guys again for spending this time and really educating us on the project. It's not every day you do see something that actually could very well, be around in 6 to 12 months. So it's very nice to hear some new ideas, some fresh things that are happening, and your guys' perspective and what you guys have been building here. And the partnerships are very impressive, guys. You don't usually, we don't usually have too many AMAs where you already have a huge, traditional finance managing $6 billion. Owning or investing in part of the project is going to help you manage funds and do all kinds of things. So, that is something that does stand out to me, and I'm just looking forward to seeing how this goes over the next couple months. And I really wish you guys all the very best in the world.
Thanks so much for your support, brother. I appreciate you having us.
Thanks very much for having us. Yeah, and thanks for having us.
While this,
I appreciate you.
While this market is burning down, let's build something up that's meaningful for the community. Yeah.
Yeah, hey, bear markets are where millionaires can be made. So you just got to find the right project, and you got to find the right investment, and right. Wait until that rocket ship takes off. So I really appreciate your time today, gentlemen. Thank you so much, and good luck on the project.
Thanks, Sensei. Take care now.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you again.
Cheers, buddy.
Thank you, everyone. Appreciate your time.